Let's now talk about intercultural pragmatics, which is associated with cross-cultural pragmatics. Intercultural pragmatics itself is based on a socio-cognitive approach, which informs us about the basic assumption that our mind exists in our head as well as in the world outside. So we have an entity or physical part of our body in form of mind, but as this theory informs us, we can say that this mind is deeply influenced by the society or culture we live in or we interact with. So both these impacts which comes from inside from our psychological makeup as well as from the social world do help us in shaping our language, in shaping our understanding of the language and the meanings we derive from our own language and from the languages of other people we interact with. Cross-cultural comparative studies do inform us that the meaning of various conversations or words do vary from culture to culture. In this regard, the elements of appropriateness does vary from culture to culture. For example, something may be appropriate in a certain culture and it may not be appropriate in another culture. For example, a certain way of saying or requesting something may be acceptable in a certain setting. For example, you might say something which you need to a friend frankly and in a straightforward, direct way. But you cannot use the same way, direct way, when you are asking something from an elder in a typical Pakistani society. Therefore, or in any other culture. Therefore, cross-culture or intercultural pragmatics help us to look into the various ways of appropriateness in which we do develop our conversations or communications. In this regard, when we talk about second language learners, it becomes very important for them to learn these rules of appropriateness or cultural variations when they learn the second language. Otherwise, they would never be able to become proficient and efficient speakers. This is probably the realization why so many contemporary courses on second language learners include the elements of communicative competence along with linguistic competence. Learning the rules of another language and knowing some ways of using it in a classroom setting may not be enough in order to become a successful second language learner. You need to develop a competence in the pragmatic knowledge of that language, how that language is actually used in the society of the native speakers. That would make you a good and proficient speaker. Therefore, the courses in second language learning and teaching focus on providing students with knowledge about the experience in using the socio-cultural rules of the new language. So it's not about linguistic rules, but also about the socio-cultural rules in which a certain language is used. In this regard, intercultural pragmatics focuses on speech acts and how they are performed in various cultures and how language is used in a certain society and how it is mediated by the socio-cultural behaviors of that society. In this regard, we can say that we study language in intercultural pragmatics as a medium of differentiation between different cultures. Medium of differentiation leads us to think about the various differences which exist between different languages and cultures, and sometimes we find that these differences in the cultures do lead us to some kind of pragmatic or communicative failure also. Because of variations in our cultural backgrounds, we are not able to understand the meanings of each other. For example, if somebody asks you about where is a certain place, you probably say it might be somebody asks you that do you know about a certain place, and you say yes, I know about it. This would be a clear pragmatic failure, because in our culture especially and in many other cultures, when somebody asks do you know where a certain place is, he is actually not asking about your knowledge. Probably he is asking or requesting you to tell him or her the way to go there. In this regard, it's very important to know the pragmatic knowledge of the other language. There could be various kinds of failures which may occur because of the difference in cultures. And in this regard, we have two major kinds of differences or failures. For example, we have socio-pragmatic failure. This failure in communication occurs when we have a lack of knowledge or insufficient knowledge, inappropriate knowledge about the culture of the other speaker or interactant who is participating in a certain conversation. I give you an example about it. If you look at the top of your screen, Speaker A says, "Wow, you have such a big family." Speaker B says, "Yes, but it has a number of advantages." There is a possibility that there is a difference about the structure of family in two cultures to which these speakers belong. There is a possibility again that big family may be a norm in the culture of one speaker, and it may not be considered as a norm, or it may not be considered good in the culture of the other speaker. For example, we can say that having big family is a norm in most of Middle East countries, but it's not a norm in Western countries, especially English-speaking and other European countries. So, when people belonging to different cultures interact with each other and share their family structures, it may become a cause of pragmatic failure sometimes, and something which is being said as a compliment may be taken as a kind of sarcasm. That's why the second speaker had to say that it has certain advantages also. We have another kind of failure, which is pragma linguistic failure, and this is caused by a kind of misunderstanding between two people based on some misinterpretation of a vocabulary or syntax of the sentence or the utterance which is being used in the conversation. To exemplify this, I have an example in front of you. Speaker A says, "You have lost a lot of weight. What are you doing?" Speaker B says, "Thanks a lot. I've been exercising." Then speaker says again, "You should not do it. You are looking awfully thin." You see, there is a clear pragma linguistic failure. The speaker A in his or her first statement is actually trying to show his or her concern about speaker B, that you have lost a lot of weight. But speaker B mistakenly is not understanding what he or she is trying to say, and he took it as a compliment. In this situation, speaker has to explain it again, and he did it. So such failures may occur when we do not understand the proper use of the language or the words which is being done in a conversation. The socio-cognitive approach to intercultural pragmatics leads us to think about the meanings with individual minds are actually embedded in social collectivity. So meanings, though they come from individual people and their way of thinking, but they are deeply embedded in their social realities. Similarly, it takes into account the societal and individual factors, including cooperation between various participants in a conversation and their ability to gel together with each other, and also their egocentrism, how much they are reduced to themselves. So these are various aspects of intercultural pragmatics which might be taken into account while you study intercultural pragmatics in your classrooms.